Hello, 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 ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Evol Live. And I have a very, very, very special guest in the building tonight. We got the founder of the Salem Horror Fest, the creative director of Cinema Salem, and producer, Kay Lynch, aka Video Coven, in the building. How you feeling tonight, Kay?
Feeling good. How are you?
Yes, I'm feeling great. I'm feeling great. I'm excited to talk about, the genre that kicks ass, our favorite subgenre, horror. Yes.
100%. That's right.
Yes. We got Ebony in the building. Hey, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for stopping by. Now let's see. We could first start off with, how did Salem Cinema, or Cinema Salem come about? How did Cinema Salem come about?
Oh, well, the cinema has been around for a couple decades now. It's an indie theater in Salem, Massachusetts.
Yes.
And yeah, it's been home to a lot of festivals. Before I started Salem Horror Fest, it's had a really well-known documentary fest.
Okay.
And so we became the new fest that came to town. And so, but the cinema actually went out of business right before the pandemic,
Oh
and
wow.
and then new owners purchased it in 2020. So they bought. Then it was purchased during a pandemic, and they had since revitalized the cinema and hired me to get involved. And it's just been really exciting trying to get people back into cinemas.
Yes. That's awesome. That because that's where it all starts. That's where, our experiences, it's nothing like being in the cinema, like that theater, having that theatrical experience, you
Absolutely.
know. And we also got a Femme Fatale Noir. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for stopping by. Now what about Salem Horror Fest? Like how did that come to fruition, for you?
Yeah, I started the Horror Fest in 2016, actually. I had a full time job in Boston in a tech company. It was very
Yes.
corporate. I was working 9 to 5. I was the director of marketing there, and was not happy. And then, of course, the 2016 election happened, and was a lot less, even more unhappy. So, um, it was a really scary time, and I remember thinking, like, "Fuck, what am I supposed to do? What can I do? I want to do something positive. I want to make some kind of impact." But my entire background is events and marketing, so I was like, "Well,
Oh,
how the hell?
sure.
You can't save the world with that." And so I living in Salem for many years, and I always thought it was really crazy that we didn't already have a horror fest.
Yes.
And so I had always thought that Salem needed one for many years, but it wasn't until 2016 that I was like, okay, now I think this is a good time for it, because I've always found horror to be most interesting when it's reflecting the cultural anxieties.
Yes.
And so that was my approach with the fest, was to talk about the horror genre as a way to talk about really big political topics one step removed. So, we're not necessarily talking about the politics head first, but we're talking about the ways in which things scare us and frighten us. And so also with Salem's history, it's like a really natural tie-in to
Yeah.
be ground zero for an example of what happens when fear is weaponized against a group of people. And so I just kind of thought it was a perfect like meeting point of several different goals. And so I started the fest, and initially we were new fest, so I just programmed a lot of repertory titles,
Yes.
and I would do double features to highlight certain political themes. So we did like Cruising and Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. We did The Mist and They Live. We did American Psycho and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We did Get Out and People Under the Stairs. And we kind of use that as a way to contextualize horror. But one of the things I'm most proud of and excited about is that over the years, the pandemic actually helped accelerate this in terms of putting us on the map with the independent filmmakers. So it's only been the last 2 years that we've been able to really focus on new voices and the people who are coming from the grassroots and telling their stories through horror. And so now it's a mix. We still do
Yeah.
story and everything, but now, we're a lot more involved in trying to support the filmmakers.
Awesome. Awesome. And I love the fact that, you talked about how important it is, because horror definitely from the beginning, like it's always had something to say, and I think all the time we hear people like, oh, I don't want to hear, about the political stuff in my horror or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's always been there. It's going to be there. It's not leaving, especially with more people getting to, bring their voices out and, and be more vocal and just get different perspectives out there, which is what we need, which is what we need to grow, so it's very important,
Yeah,
but
as a queer person, I've always had to, like, the only way I could see myself is in the subtext of films that were made by mostly non-queer people.
yes,
And so for a long time, I had to project on things and interpret films in that way. And there are it's not hard to do when you have a genre that deals with a lot of other, groups of people being othered and, being society being afraid of a monster and that sort of thing. But what's happening now that I think is exciting is that sort of identity is coming into is out of the subtext. And so now it's not all about, they're not all allegories anymore. Now we have like Chucky, the TV series, and Fear Street, and we have all these like overtly queer stories that are being told by queer filmmakers. And I think that's what's really exciting about this moment, is because it's crossing that threshold where it's now both in the subtext and in the text itself.
Yes. And that's very deep what you had said, that you could only at one point, you could only see yourself in the subtext, like that's crazy. That's crazy. The future is going to look at us very, very sideways, very sideways.
Well, we already are. Deservedly so. Yeah. But we're here now, and so we have the opportunity to change that, so that future generations will look into this moment and say, "Oh, they started to come around the corner there."
yeah. Just a little bit. We still got a lot more to do, but
it's a long road. Yeah,
we're getting there. We're getting there. Now, I always like to ask people this, what's your horror origin story? Like, how did you fall in love with the genre?
So initially, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and for a long time, at that time, on like cable, I guess it was like affiliate networks. So like the Fox, UPN, those kind of networks would show horror movies in the afternoon, but they'd be so edited and they'd be the type of stuff. That's where I saw like Ghoulies and Critters and Munchies, all the little creature movies. But on 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, everything's edited. But those creatures, I was always like, this is like exciting to watch. And so I was always drawn to that for that reason of being like having this really like morbid fascination about it. But it wasn't until I saw Carrie on TNT Monster Vision with Joe Bob, like it was like late at night, watched Carrie, and I was like transfixed. That's when I realized I'm like, holy shit, I definitely could relate to this story. And at the very end, there's the stinger where Sue's hand comes out from the grave. And I I thought I was having a heart attack. I almost fell off the couch, and I was like, I couldn't breathe. I was like, what the fuck? And I was obsessed with how I felt. I was like, what? How can a movie do this? How can a movie make me feel this viscerally? And at that time in science class, our teacher had a box for anonymous questions, and the age that I was at, that kind of box is intended for most, like questions about your changing body and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the only time I ever put a question in there was to say, what is that feeling when you're watching a horror movie and it feels like you're having a heart attack? And so we talked about adrenaline that day.
Awesome.
And ever since then, I became hooked. And so that's when I, like, one of the things I love about horror fans is that we like homework. Once we're into something or we're intrigued by something, all of a sudden there's this world opens up to us of like little canals to go down and little threads to pull on, and whether it's you see a Wes Craven film, and all of a sudden you go through his back catalog, or you realize I don't know, zombie films, and you go, well, what was the first zombie film? And there's all these like different ways to pull on these various threads to become exposed to different nooks and crannies of the genre.
Yes. It all comes together. It all comes together. And you just took me back talking about like the edited, horror films on television, because I haven't had cable in like a decade, but just thinking back, like watching like the AMC, marathons, or the UPN, in the middle of the day, and it's just like it's edited, but the commercials that they would come up with, and just the graphics, and it added that element of like, oh, this is fun, even though this is edited, this is fun.
Yeah, I do miss that a little bit. I miss that sort of. It was a really for discoverability, for finding things that you didn't know you liked.
Yeah,
that was a plus for kind of like live television.
Oh, yes.
You're like, oh, what the hell is this? I came in halfway through and now I'm intrigued, and all of a sudden that's how I realized I liked horror. I suppose at some point I would have figured it out, but it was presented in front of me. And so now I think that when we have so much control over what we like, our algorithms are catered to our past behaviors, and going to the video rental store is the same thing, where you just walk in and you have to like physically look at the different options in front of you, and all you had was like two pictures, a poster, two pictures, and like 5 sentences to tell you what the film was. And you took a chance on a lot of things. You go, this looks interesting, let's see what they got. And so now I think there's just so much content, and a lot of it's catered to what it thinks we want, that I always get excited when there are new ways to expose people to things that will excite them for the first time.
Yes. No, I totally agree, especially nowadays with like TikTok and the algorithm. Like if you're watching certain things, it's like I feel like the algorithm knows me better than the doctor. At this point, like the algorithm just let me make an appointment with the algorithm, because it's going to know me better.
Ooh, I don't know about
that. But it gets a little crazy, and you have to, I think now, like you said, you have to dig a little more, because the algorithm, like you said, is going to show you like, oh, you watched this and you watched this a year ago, so you may like this, but it doesn't know that, if you look at this over here, you're really going to dig this, but it's not going to show up in your algorithm, and that's the beauty of talking to people in the horror community, because everybody like passes around like recommendations and things like that, and it's just like, it's so many, to even sit down and watch. But I found that like some of my favorite horror films have come from like people's recommendations and things that they've been passionate about. Like I really wasn't up on like Giallo and stuff like that until Marco Estes put me on, and I was
Oh,
like, oh, this
nice.
is this is dope. And then like I hadn't seen Rocky Horror Picture Show until like last year. Like
Oh
I
my gosh.
was, yeah, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, yo, this is the shit right here. And I'm just like, oh, this is like, it never would have fallen into my algorithm, but somebody, my fiance, she had put me on, and I was like, oh yeah, this is what it is. This is what it is. So,
That's
I
great.
definitely think we are missing that. Like not going into Blockbuster, not going into Hollywood Video and soaking up things. We are definitely missing that experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think curation is so important for that reason. And so you could be like, I don't know, I like vampire movies, and I don't know, there are like people who there are so many different types of vampire movies. They don't care; they want to watch all of them. And there are some genres where I'm like that, but there are like when you follow people's tastes, they're going to recommend something that is reflective of who they are. And so if you're like, this person intrigues me for whichever way, and in a lot of cases they're not people like you. I mean, we're all different in so many unique ways. So if someone catches your attention, you're like, oh, this person has interesting recommendations. And it's like, you're not necessarily chasing the content, you're chasing the fact that someone thinks you should watch it. And who is that person? And that, I think, is what makes it exciting, because it adds like a very personal dimension to what you're watching. And everyone's taste is different. So when you find people who have an interesting taste, it doesn't matter if they're recommending something you haven't heard before. It's because it's like, well, I'm interested because they're interested. And then you see something, and all of a sudden you want to see every giallo
Yes.
that's ever been made. And that was my same experience with giallo as well.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's always fun. It's like a connection. It's like when someone recommends me a film and I watch it and I'm like, oh, this was good. Then they recommend me something else and I watch it and I'm like, oh, so we're here with it. Like
Yes.
we're like and then we swap recommendations and it's like, okay, I
Mhm.
trust you. I trust you as far as expanding my palette.
Yeah.
So it's always a fun thing, always a fun thing. You know, we got Ebony in the building. Thank you for stopping by.
All
Pretty girls love horror. Thank you for stopping by. I relate to that growing up loving horror and being black. We weren't the final girls or the heroes. Facts, facts.
right.
We got Jerry Davy in the building. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, there's all different. It's a lot of different perspectives that I'm loving seeing come to the light, because especially like even mingling with the horror community, like a lot of times when I would search horror reviews and stuff like that, like I really wouldn't see a lot of people that look like me and a lot of other like representation, a lot of other communities, and then I started falling down this rabbit hole and I'm like, oh, everybody's here. Everybody's here. Like the party is in the horror community. That's where the party is at.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
Now my next question for you would be, do you have a favorite subgenre, or a couple? Because some people can't just name one, but do you have one or a couple?
Hmm. It's hard. I mean, I like so many different types, and I almost want to go deeper than like the next step, or maybe two steps further than subgenre. Like there are
Okay.
some things, like speaking of giallo, one of the things that I really like are that there's like a small group of um films that are like workplace giallos. So Blood and Black Lace, for example, they're all in a fashion house. You have all these
Yeah.
models in a fashion house, and they're getting picked off one by one. Strip to Kill, there are all these strippers, these dancers who
Yes.
are all in the same club, and there's a killer amongst them. Office Killer, I like Urban Legends Final Cut. They're all filmmakers at a film school.
Yes.
Dario Argento's Tenebrae, where it's all about the writing community. Like I love when
Yes.
it's like here are a bunch of industry colleagues, and now there's a killer.
Does it like give you sort of like a release, kind of? Is it because sometimes I think like I've noticed for me, like if someone is confined to a room or a specific location, those are the type of horror films that really like get me there. Like I'm cool if we're outside and it's an open sandbox for play and all that, but if we're locked in with the killer inside of a building or a containment center, like I'm sold. I'm there.
Yeah, I think one aspect to it is that when you are at a job, you it's great if you like everyone you work with. It's very
Yes.
special. It's a very privileged thing. Not usually the case, not always the case. And so, in a lot of slashers, for example, we follow groups of friends. They like each other. They want to hang out with each other. But
Yes.
with like these type of industry giallos, they have to be together because they're working, they're that's their job. And so you get these different relationship dynamics where there are people who don't like each other or disagree with one another, or people that really like each other and probably shouldn't in this. I just feel like the relationships are a little more nuanced, a little more complicated when you're all stuck in a job together. And but at the same time, because they're professionals in whatever field they're in, they do have something that binds them. They all have a mutual um I don't know, a mutual perspective or a mutual purpose, I guess I should say, in what it is they're trying to do. And so I don't know, I just think it makes it really complex and interesting, and it puts um, people who share the same objective, but come at it from a different point of view.
Yeah, I can dig that. I can definitely dig that, especially workplace. Even removing the horror aspect is still kind of like it's still a horror show because
Always.
still,
Yeah.
it's you can't get away from it. You cannot get away from it. It's
Mhm.
politics and just backstabbing and all this stuff. So all the elements that would make a perfect horror movie.
Yeah. When you have so many different personalities that aren't choosing to be together,
Yeah.
it makes things interesting.
Yes. And that's a wild concept, like a Black Mirror episode. If you could choose your coworkers, and their personalities, like you just quiz them, and it's like, okay, if you score right on this, then we're cool. We can work together. But if not, it'd be a lot of empty warehouses, a lot of empty
Yeah.
office buildings.
I mean, there's for some people that is the case, and it's a very privileged thing to, and I've definitely had that opportunity to. I think it's maybe more prevalent to like who you work with in a creative way,
Yeah.
because at least on projects when
Yes.
you get to choose to work together on a project. But if you have a job and you're yeah, I don't know, I just think it's really interesting. And Strip to Kill, shout out to Strip to Kill, it's really a special movie.
Okay, I definitely gotta check that out. Definitely gotta check
Yeah,
that out. It's
100.
on my recommendations. Now, my next question for you would be: do you have a favorite decade of horror?
Yeah, I would have to say 1940s.
Ooh.
Um, my favorite horror film is Cat People, and that is 1942. That is the first film from producer Val Lewton, who's working for RKO, and he made a series of films as a producer. That I love every one of them. So let's see. After Cat People, he did I Walk with the Zombie, Seventh Victim, Leopard Man, Ghost Ship, Bedlam, The Body Snatcher. I think this. Oh, and The Curse of the Cat People. Oh, these are all really great films. He became known as the Man of Shadows. And so one of the things I really love about the 40s in particular is that it was the time of film noir. So they weren't film noir was a label for a genre that came later. So in the 40s, no one was aware that they were making film noir. It was like many decades later, these French critics were like, there's something going on in America in the 1940s. There's a lot of key elements in these films that kind of bind them together. And so while film noir is mostly crime stories, um, there are a few films that overlap into horror. And so, because like film noir is not just the type of a story, it's also the style. And so
Yes.
the style element is these dark contrast shadows and just this really beautiful tableaus of shadow. And and I just love that aesthetic. And so Cat People was one of the films that helped codify that visual style. And in all the films that he did following that, he worked with a director, Jacques Tourneur, who did Cat People, but he also did um, I Walk with the Zombie, Leopard Man. These are other horror films that have a film noir aesthetic. And he made the movie Out of the Past, which is one of the best film noirs ever made. And so, yeah, I just that style is really pretty to me, and it's dark and spooky but beautiful. And it was also during World War II, which makes so there aren't a lot of films in the 1940s. They were because a lot of the filmmakers got hired by the government to make propaganda films. And so a lot of resources were diverted from Hollywood. So when you look at the total volume of films that came out in the 40s, it's a lot less than any other time. But it was a dark time in history. And I think that it's really interesting to see how that seeped into the films that did get made.
Oh yes. Oh yes. See, I gotta dip into the 40s. Like as the 40s, it seems like a time. Like I dipped last year. I dipped into the 70s and a little bit into the 60s, but I gotta dip into the 40s.
Yeah. There's a lot of good stuff in the 60s and 70s, a lot of lesser known stuff too. So there's like a huge world there. And it's a lot of like obscure titles that are worth seeking out and just more contemporary. I do think that the 2010s is a really juicy decade as well. I really think, when I look at 1 second, I might be losing my battery. Um,
Prom. Oh, your microphone. Oh, you're muted. Just tap the microphone next to you. There
Can
we
you hear
go.
me?
There we go. Yeah, now I can hear you.
Good. Yeah, I think the 2010s were a really juicy time, and it's a shame that like especially 2019, I think was a really good year, and it's I don't know, I just think it's such a shame that the pandemic was a shame for several obvious reasons,
Yes.
but one of them is I really think that how the pause that it put on Hollywood ended like a really solid streak of the horror genre going into new and interesting places, especially when it came to like diversity and representation. And so we had this pause, and now I feel like we're now the films that are coming out now are so decentralized. We have so many different corners of filmmaking, and
Yes.
that there's like no it's like a jungle. There's so many to choose from, and so I think that is ultimately a good thing to have come out of the pandemic, is that it's decentralized a lot of that and has democratized storytelling in a way. And I think that because we had to take a pause, we were so used to like these big budget, like all the superhero
Yes.
films and everything, like everything, the blockbuster mentality popped. And I think it shook a lot of people out of their comfort zones of just defaulting to those type of movies. And so I feel really hopeful when what I'm seeing now is that it just seems like the type of films that are finding success now are like weird and
Yeah.
unique. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, wow. I mean, even when it comes to the big budget movies, it's like Barbie and Oppenheimer. It's like these films are really unique and became phenomenons. And like Megan
Yes. Megan.
was one of a huge hit when it came out. Skinamarink, The Outwaters, Terrifier 2, like these it's these movies that kind of come out of left field and are like, but they're finding big audiences. And so I think that now we're in a very exciting time of things to come.
Yes, yes, I totally agree. Especially like, just people in the sense of people taking risks with their films. Like you have brought up Skinamarink, which I'm a huge, huge fan of,
Nice.
and just sitting in the dark. I always tell people, sit in the dark, put your headphones on and
Mhm.
watch Skinamarink, and just you get all these different experiences. Because I know before it was like, okay, it's got to be a big budget if it's on the screen. Otherwise, just a certain sector of people are going to get the chance to see these movies. But now you get the weird movies like something like a Nope, or even the latest Godzilla, that's out
Yes.
now, and that was made for 15 million. It's crazy,
Yeah. And well,
crazy.
the fact that it is a foreign film, coming from Japan, and The Boy and the Heron in anime, we had Godzilla and Boy and the Heron in the top 5 at the box office.
Yes,
2 international titles.
yes,
Every once in a while, it becomes very unique phenomenon when one, like it's Life is Beautiful or Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Like every
yes,
once in a while, we have these hits, but now we have 2 in the top 5. And it's like, and yeah, Godzilla's a huge property. So is Miyazaki. And it's a family, but it's like they're very unique from what we are used to. And I guess Miyazaki, that film is dubbed, but Godzilla, you gotta read subtitles.
oh yeah,
And it's like, I think there are a lot of people where that is a barrier for them. And it's like, if you can get over that, if you can just vibe with subtitles, there's a huge, vast universe open to you of the types of shit you never could imagine.
oh my.
So I love that Godzilla is as big of a hit as it is because I think it's gonna normalize subtitles to a lot of people.
Yes, yes. I was actually in the theater watching the latest Godzilla, and these teenagers, they came in, and they're just doing the teenage thing. They're just yapping away, and then one of them's like, "Bro, this movie, I didn't know it had subtitles. Like I didn't know like it was in another language." And I'm just like, "Yo, y'all gotta expand your mind. You gotta expand your mind." Because at one point, like especially when I was younger, I was like, "Oh, I don't want to go that extra step and read, while I'm watching my movie," especially like if you're not paying attention, you just want to throw something on in the
Right.
background. But now, like especially once I opened my mind, because I remember seeing Quarantine, and I was like, "Oh, this is an okay movie," and then someone recommended Rec, and
Yes.
my mind was just blown. Then I fall down the rabbit hole. I'm seeing, Gunjiam haunted asylum, and just the some Indonesian films, in Pedagore and all this stuff, and Satan Slaves. I'm just like, yo, this is crazy. And some of my favorite films, turned out to be foreign films, especially like something like High Tension, which I
Hmm.
really love, it's definitely, people need to definitely get over that barrier.
Yeah, I mean, and it is what's the word? I mean, it's a muscle that you have to develop because when at first it was like, how am I supposed to yeah, how am I supposed to do both? You do it enough times and all of a sudden it becomes natural. You don't even notice. And now,
Yeah.
like, for me, I like subtitles on everything, like on even
Yes.
on English titles films because I don't know. It's like I do have ADHD, so that is a factor. But it's like uh, remembering characters' names, for example.
Yes.
Like when I watch a film, if I don't have subtitles, I never it just goes in and out, and I'm like, wait, who are we talking about? So the subtitles help me remember because I'm reading their name, and now when by the end of the movie I'm able to talk about a character specifically by name. I have a lot more
Yes.
context that and it forces you to be more active, a more active participant in the film. There's a lot of scenarios in which I want films to just be the background. It's like these are comfort films, wherever I'm doing some work and I just want something to kind of keep me company. And there's totally a place for that. But there's also, I think, it's like but when you're able to give something your full attention
Yes.
and not just passively watch it, to be constantly like, okay, wait, now what's going on here? What is this person's relationship? What are their goals? What are their objectives? I used to want to be an actor a long time ago. I actually went to acting school for 2 years in New York. And the way that they teach you to break down a scene is, you'll have a scene and say there are two actors in the scene. The first thing you do is you say, what is my objective in this scene? Like, say that it takes place in a room and I'm walking
Mhm.
into a room. What is it I want to achieve by the time I walk out? And it can be like, it doesn't have to be a big goal. It could be like, I want to seduce them, or like, I want to change their mind, or like, I want them to think of me as an equal, or whatever is relevant to the story in the script. And so you have this overarching goal for your interaction with this other character. But then there's beat changes, and so you'll go through the script, and every line is an action. Why? What am I when I say this line? What is it that I'm trying to achieve with this line, and how does it support my overall objective?
Yeah.
And so once you start looking at things, there's a similar way of looking, from the writer's perspective, that's going on as well too. And so it's just, I think that once you start to find these commonalities and these sort of different structures of storytelling, it's really cool to see it play out in front of you.
Yes, yes, most definitely, most definitely. And I love people who wanted to get into the acting game, because it's just fun. I mean, that means you're an artist. You are an artist. Gotta gotta get it out there. Gotta get it out there.
I just didn't have the life of a starving artist. That's
Oh yeah, no,
that's why I was like, oh, I don't know if I could live like audition to audition at a time.
No, I definitely understand. Like it does take a lot of, dedication and sacrifice, especially because it does not always pay the bills, even for the ones that we think. Because back in the day, I
Yeah,
used to think like everybody was paid, everybody was living the life, living it up. But then you get a little older, and it's like, oh no, they're not paying these folks at all, at
no.
all.
Yeah. And faith, you have to have a lot of faith. And so for me, it was just a formula of like, I didn't want this as bad as what it will take to get. And so, I had other things that I was passionate about and followed that. But for those who do have that faith in themselves and in the opportunity, then it's like, fuck yeah. Like, it's an amazing thing when people make that jump.
Yes, yes, most definitely, most definitely. Now, my next question for you would be, could you name a film, a horror film, that you wish you could have been on the set for?
Oh, hell yeah. Gremlins 2. Gremlins 2.
Oh,
That
Gremlins 2 was a ride.
yeah. That all those puppets. Oh my god. I mean, I would like to be there. I would not like to be the I'm sure it was a nightmare. A tech nightmare. Anytime you're dealing with Chucky, that was really fucking hard. I mean, there's one character, they had several puppets to achieve that. But with Gremlins 2, I just am in love with the production. The production of that film is just I'm such a sucker for puppetry in general, but also like you had all these different these very like creative imagination of like w- how many different gremlins can we make? And so it's really chaos, especially by the end when they're all in the main foyer or whatever, and hundreds of puppets
Yes.
acting. Yeah, I would love to be there. I love Joe Dante. I feel like Joe Dante always has this like chaotic charm to his movies. Like they're all insane. They're all like live action cartoons.
Yeah.
And has like a very chaotic energy, a very fun energy. And I think Joe Dante is a very youthful filmmaker. And so I kind of I think it would be really fun. Like probably any Joe Dante film I would like to be on, but that one's probably the most chaotic of his films.
Yes, yes. It Gremlins 2 definitely stands out. It definitely stands
Yeah.
out. It's one of those ones that you can just toss on and no matter what it is, especially during the holiday season, and
Yeah.
everybody's just glued to the screen because it's so much going on, so
Mhm.
much going on.
Well, and I love that, like, so Gremlins 1 is like in the text, it's a Christmas film. You know what I mean? It's like it's definitely a Christmas film. But what I love now is people treating Gremlins 2 as a New Year's Eve film.
Yes.
I'm like, that's perfect. That's beautiful. I love it's yes. So Gremlins
Yes.
2, put it on your New Year's Eve watch list.
Yes. Listen, we need people to put out more watch lists for New Year's Eve, because
Yeah.
we know you're still off. We know you're off.
Yeah.
We gotta get these marathons going. Definitely gotta
Absolutely.
get these marathons going. Now, my next question for you would be, how does it feel to, because back in the day, like I don't know how it was for you, but I really didn't have anybody to talk about horror with, besides like my dad, because my dad, he's the one that really got me into it or whatever. But I was always the kid, like everybody would we would have our sleepovers. Everybody's like, "Oh, let's watch Jurassic Park. Let's watch this," and I'm like, "Oh, let's watch The Evil Dead. Let's watch the Curse of
Yeah.
Michael Myers." And it just threw off the energy. But now, being surrounded by so many like awesome, horror content creators, no matter what they're doing, whether they're making films, or doing reviews, or whatever they're doing, creating safe spaces and things like that. Like, how does it feel to be in the community in the year 2023/2024?
It's one of the reasons I love festivals because it brings people physically together.
Yes.
And certainly cinema in general does that, but festivals are a little more concentrated in the sense that it's a community as well. It's bringing people together with a mutual interest, and these are people who are very passionate about horror. And so with the festival, we have several different like sub communities. There's like the audience for horror, then there are the people who make it, and then there are people who like to talk about it. Um, Everyone likes to talk about horror, but there are people who have podcasts, have YouTube shows like you do, have a platform to talk about it in their own specific way. And so I get so much pleasure from doing a festival because it brings all of these people together. And that is the ultimate purpose of a festival, I think. Yes, to watch the films, but the festival makes watching films an event, which
Yes.
means the event is talking about it, thinking about it, sharing it with other people. And so it makes the art of creating these films and the act of watching them a more active and collaborative activity. And so I think anyone who likes horror, seek out your nearest festival because you're going to meet the other people who are just as big of a fan as you are. And and in my experience, type of people who go to film festivals love to talk about
Yes.
horror. We'll never run out of things to say about it. And yeah, that's I've worked at Blockbuster, I've worked at cinemas, I've worked at festival. Like I keep going to where the people talk about film are. That's like
Yes.
I just keep looking for them because it's what I'm passionate about, what I like to do. And it's a great way to meet people and get to know people. And doing that, you get to know more about yourself.
Yes, yes, most definitely. Like I know, someone can wear like a howling shirt, in public, and I'm like, oh, nice shirt. We share that bond, but if you go to like a festival or a con, something like that, and it's just you're surrounded, it's like, oh, I'm with my people.
Yeah,
I can like I don't have to feel like an outsider, an outcast. Like if I'm wearing this shirt or if someone's cosplaying, like we're like, oh, this was I see what you did there. I see the effort you put into that, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it. You
yeah.
know.
Well, plus there's a lot of weird shit that we watch. It's not like we can just
Yeah.
go anywhere and be like, "Hey, did you see Satan's Slaves too?" They'll be like, "What?" You know what I mean? But you go to a horror festival and you say, "Did you see it?" Like, yeah, oh my god, if you like that, you got to watch, this other film. It's like, I don't know. It's just like there's so many things that we enjoy at a much deeper level in terms of like
Yes.
so much more specificity. It's nice to find other people who are working with they have the same working knowledge as you, because then
Yes.
you don't have, your conversations are less surface level. They can become much more grade A, much more nuanced, much more deep. And yeah, and horror is such a good genre for that, because it's like, I don't know, more than any other genre. I mean, I feel like there's got to be more horror in general. There's got to be more horror films have ever been made than any other genre. Because it's like insane how many are out there. But it's because I think that there are more horror fans than there are fans of any other genre too. And like, we are the type of people who will take chances on types of
Yes,
films.
we will.
And we'll watch a lot of shit to find the gems, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, because not everything's great, but
No.
it's like, and that's fine. That's what makes the great ones even better, is that you're like, holy shit, this really stands out. And even things that aren't that great, there's enjoyment to be had there too. I like a lot of bad films for different reasons. And I think that there's such a supportive mentality to that horror fans have, where we're just voracious. Like, we just want to consume it all, and like, just to find the gold. You know what I mean? We're just like taking we're
Yes.
going through the trough, just to be like, oh my god, here it is. Here's the shiny one.
Yes. I mean, it only takes you, but you're gonna watch only but so many films until you hit like a gold mine again with
Yeah.
horror. Because sometimes, like, you speak about Blockbuster. Like I remember going to the Blockbuster, taking a chance, especially looking at the cover, being like, all right, this looks interesting,
Mhm.
taking it back home, and you're like, oh my God, this was not it. But I at least get a laugh out of what's going on the screen. And you're just like, all right, let me go back again, let me try something else new. And I think it's wonderful, because especially now, because we've got like Shutter, and we've got the AMC, all the stuff that they come out with. And then we've got like the stuff on the internet, and then independent releases and all these independent film festivals and things like that. There's so many different ways for us to soak up the entertainment now,
Mhm.
and to just to experience it all, and to get expand that palette, expand the palettes.
Yeah, because it broadens um you have a lot more context. You know what I mean? So if you
Yes.
watch a lot of things, it even if some of them individually are not great, the fact that you watched it will give you more perspective, give you a broader perspective. So when you do find the great ones, they're great because of more specific reasons. That, like, if you watch, I don't know, there's a filmmaker you really like, maybe not all of them are amazing, but the ones that are less amazing help inform the other ones that they've made that are even better. You know what I mean? So there's still a lot of that kind of value. Or one of my favorite things about film in general, but this pertains to horror as well, is that they always reflect the time that they were made in
Yes.
some way. You know what I mean? Then it's not always intentional. Like George Romero had a lot of intentional messages. But even if you didn't mean to have a message, the type of film you're making, the way the characters treat each other, the way they're dressed, the types of things that they're struggling with, the environment that they're in, or whatever, there's so many factors that even if you're not trying to make a message picture, you watch a lot of 1970s films and you learn a lot about what it was like, the 1970s was like. Even
Yes.
if those films aren't necessarily about that, you get to see the culture of that time. And so there are a lot of films that are not that remarkable, but because they were made at a very specific time and place, there can be a lot to learn from that.
Yes, yes. The style, and I always say that I'm like the style will carry you into the future more than like a big blockbuster budget, will every time, because we're see like I'll look back at like like Spider-Man or whatever, like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, and I'm like, which I grew up loving, but I look at some of the CGI now and I'm like, oh my god, like this is this was wild, but I look back at something that's a little bit more stylistic and it's like, oh, this still carries over. Like it's not glaring at me that they weren't working with this budget or this technology because they took the time to set up the to paint a picture a little bit more vividly.
Yeah, they created their own rules to follow. So it's like when you watch Suspiria,
Yes.
it will always be amazing and interesting to watch because it is very specific to what he was trying to do, and it's very visual. And so because it doesn't fall into the standard of its time, those things will age. But Suspiria was always a very unique vision, and therefore it will always remain that way.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad, he's actually the one who put me on to Suspiria. He was
Nice.
like, yeah,
Cool dad.
this yeah, he was like, it scared the crap out of me as a kid. And I'm like, all right, let me put it on, and it just amazed me, especially the visuals, the visuals and the music. It was a time. It was
Yeah,
definitely a time.
absolutely.
Yeah. So my next question for you would be, is there a horror movie that you wish that you could see again for the first time?
Let's see. I'd probably go back to Carrie.
Oh, Carrie, listen,
Yeah.
Carrie is a classic. It
Yeah.
is a classic,
Because like that was the movie that got me into horror.
Yes.
And so it will always have that special place in my heart. And it's specifically because the way in which I experienced it for the first time that like
Yes.
awoken something in me. It was like, this movie is making me feel things I didn't know were possible. And I don't know, I would love to be able to, with what I know now about who I am and the world and being someone forced to live in it, I would love to go back with this context and experience that film for the first time. I think it would just be really interesting to compare how I might react to it now to how I would have then.
Yes, yes. Now with you being in the industry, like would if you had the opportunity, would you do anything with Carrie? Like would you do a reboot, or would you do a television series? Because I think I wouldn't mind seeing a series, a little mini series of Carrie.
I mean, I think there's definitely one you could totally make a series out of Carrie. For me, one thing I've always dreamed about is directing the musical.
Oh, that would
Doing
be sick.
Yeah, there is one that, and now it was a huge flop on Broadway, but it's grown some cult status over time. But yeah, I would love to direct just a version of that, and I just think that growing up, I identified more with Carrie, and there's not a lot that I can identify with Carrie's mom at all. She's a villain, but
Yeah.
at the same time, she this is a woman who had her own trauma. You know what I mean? Like, she's the monster, but the way in which she is monstrous is because of terrible things that happened to her.
Yes.
And being a mom is scary no matter who you are. So, like, I don't know. I think that that to me, in the idea of directing the musical, I would be much more interested in the psychology of Carrie's mom than Carrie, whereas when I was younger, it would be the other way. And so, yeah, I just think that that character is really interesting, and it requires an amazing actor. And so, to have the opportunity to work with someone who was capable of capturing that character would be
Yes.
really rewarding.
Yes. That I mean that would be kick ass just to see Carrie on Broadway. Because I remember seeing the Evil Dead the musical
Yeah.
a couple times, and just getting sitting in the front the first couple
Oh
rows
no.
getting sprayed with blood, and
Yeah.
it's just a fun time. So I'm like, oh, I could totally see them doing something like that with Carrie.
Yeah.
Totally. It would definitely be a good time. Definitely be a good time.
Absolutely.
Now, my next question, which I like to ask everybody, does horror do anything for your mental health specifically?
Oh yeah. That's another, I mean, Carrie was an example of how it touched me in that way. But more recently, I mean, this is a few years ago now, but well, I guess I'll just say growing up, it was horror made me feel less alone. And there are a lot of people that I've talked to, my husband being one of them, being like, how is this comforting? How is this comforting? And it'll be like, look, you know what? This is how I experience life. When it comes
Mhm.
to my queerness, I've had people treat me like a monster. Or when it comes to anxiety, that's what every horror film induces. Like the horror films, their entire purpose is to make you feel uneasy. And so if you experience that every day and the people around you don't, like you're an outcast. There's something wrong with you. And so when I was watching horror films, their tone, like their existential dread was like,
Yes.
hey, I know her. I feel this every day. So that means I'm not alone. That means other people feel this. And so a few years ago, I was really struggling with something, and I started seeing a new therapist. Um, and like finding a therapist and getting to build a relationship with someone takes time. They
Yes.
got to get to know who you are and why you are the way you are, and how you want to change and what it would take to help you. It takes a lot. And I wasn't in like the best state of mind to be like, here's everything you need to know about me. So one thing that I did was I asked her, I said, have you ever seen the movie Carnival of Souls? And she said, no. And I said, well, um, it's in the public domain. It's very easily accessible. But if you watch it, this is how I experience my life every day. This is what it feels like to be in my head. And she watched it, and we
Mhm.
had a session afterwards talking about that movie. And it was a really fascinating shortcut for her to be like, I get it, or to whatever degree someone could. It was like I didn't have I could have spent weeks trying to communicate how I feel.
Yes.
And by her watching Carnival of the Dead, it was just like she was able to fast forward a little bit and go, okay, I see what's going on here. Or like, I see where we should start or how we should start or whatever. And so that really really validated how I had felt about horror in the past, about the ways in which that had comforted me. But then that experience made me realize, no, this is a tool. This is like not just a way for me to feel less alone. It's a way that it's something that can help people, help individual people with their own issues, but help other people understand them.
Yes.
And so like Roger Ebert always talked about horrors as empathy machines.
Mm.
Because you go to the movies and you get to imagine what life might be like for someone who's different from you, and it's so true. And when it comes to horror, and what I love about it, and what I try to do with the festival, is try to show people how people imagine what it would be like to have someone else's fears. You know, I mean, we're all afraid of something, but we're not all afraid of the same things. And so
Yes.
I think horror is a way to kind of imagine that. And like growing up, I had a lot of issues. And when I would tell my parents, I need to see a therapist, they'd say, we don't believe in that kind of thing. And I'd
Mm.
be like, it would like break my brain. And so there was a lot of times where it's like, there are a lot of situations in this world where people will negate how you feel. They'll say, "Oh, well, that's not real. You're afraid of something that's not going to happen," or like, they try to dismiss your fears. And I think with horror, it's a way to say like, "No, your fears are valid." And you're afraid for a reason. And fear has like a biological purpose. Like when it comes to like fight or flight, it's like fear. If something is like threatening you, then it's a way for you to get out of a dangerous situation. And so, yeah, so I think like horror is a huge tool for people. And The Cell, the 2000 film with J Lo, The
Yes.
Cell, I think is the best way to explain that to someone of how horror can be useful for mental health.
Yes, yes. A lot of people say it's like a sort of a release, for them. And like you said, and like Roger Ebert, once said like an empathy machine, because we get to just experience it from a different perspective and through their lens. And sometimes you're like, well, wow, if they're going through this, it's not as bad as what I'm going through, or
Yeah. Hmm. Well, when I
so
look back at Carrie, sometimes feel weird talking about how much Carrie means to me
nah, not
because
at all.
well, no, I know, but when I think about it now, I'm like, yeah, you totally related to Carrie, and watching that movie gave me the catharsis that I needed, and be like, yeah, I'd love to do that, but I'm not going to because this movie helped me release those endorphins.
Yes.
But when I think about it now, I'm like, hmm. I don't know if I really like the idea of relating to someone who performed a school massacre. Um, so no, but I think that's the big thing about horror is that people are like, how could you like all this like violent things? It's like, are you a
Yes.
violent person? It's like, no, I watch these things because I recognize there's scary shit in the world, and this helps me like process it.
Exactly. Exactly. It's always something going on in the world,
Yeah,
So we all need our different avenues, to that helps us through,
yeah.
especially during like the pandemic and stuff like that, and everything else that's going on, and
It's a pressure valve. It's the way you have all this. You got to do something, otherwise you explode. So there's all these things in life that allow you to release that pressure, and I think horror is one of them. It's a catharsis. It's a way to be like, "Whew, okay, I'm still scared of spiders, but at least now I had a release about it." I'm like, well, they're not gonna grow bigger than my house, so I guess things aren't so bad.
Exactly, exactly. There's no one in the shadows, hopefully.
Yeah.
We got Cray Dre. Thank you for stopping by, Cray Dre. Says horror is the gateway to getting the lens to other spheres. Yes,
Absolutely.
yes. Completely agree. Completely agree. We also got How Bizarre Pictures. Thank you for stopping by. I know it'd be impossible to top Sissy Spacek's performance, but if you had that opportunity, who would be your choice of actor for Carrie today? That's a good question.
That's a really good question.
Wow, because I feel because nowadays I feel like you can go any angle with it. You can definitely go any angle with it. So
I mean, I think Julianne Moore was a great choice for the remake. I think she was a great choice. This is so juicy. I feel like she'd be too old at this point, but I love Holly Hunt. I just love her so much. I'd probably, no matter who you said, I'd probably be like Parker Posey. Like any character, my go-to would be like Parker Posey, and I would hesitate to say Parker Posey as Carrie's mom. Other than like, I love it when comedic actors go straight.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I think like Jim Carrey has done a lot of interesting things with that, where it's like he's capable of being like really slapstick, but I'd love to see Parker Posey play it 100% straight, and that she has it in her to go over the top. But like she's also a very nuanced performer in which I could totally see her reining that in a way that is very uncomfortable. I don't know if I stand by that though. I don't know if that's not a great choice. I just love Parker Posey. No, I really have to think of someone to be more age appropriate, because when I think of someone who would be a good mom, I'm 40 years old. I'm like, who would be a good mom for someone who's in high school? That's someone a lot younger. And so, yeah, I'd really have to think about that.
Well, we could go a little older, especially like you said, the workplace. We could definitely, like, people dealing with all the shit that they deal with in the workplace. Like, we could have Carrie in the workplace.
Yeah.
That'd be wild.
I need to. What's her name? Elizabeth Moss.
Elizabeth Moss.
Yeah.
Yes, she's good as well.
Yeah, like her performance in Invisible Man, Handmaid's Tale. She's a Scientologist, so she's a little scary to begin with. I think it might be, I don't know, really interesting for someone who actually does have radical religious views to inhabit that role. It could be interesting. I mean, and she's just an incredible actor. What's her name? Betty Gilpin. Do you know who she is? She was in The Hunt.
Oh yes, I know who she is.
You fucked up, bitch. I love that. But she's also in Glow and everything. She's doing a lot of interesting work too when it comes to, she has really good comedic timing, but she also has really good depth to her characters. Like, I think she could be pretty good at that as well.
Yes. I love the choices. Coming through with the question, how bizarre. Cray Dre says, "Oh my God, they could totally make a movie about the workplace. I swear it could be made some terrifying." Yes, we were talking about that a little bit earlier. How the workplace is one of the most terrifying places, out there.
There's a film I watched recently. Carter Smith is the filmmaker. He made a film called The Passenger that came out this year. And it's, the first 30 minutes or so, I think, takes place in a fast food restaurant.
Oh, wow.
And it gets scary. So
okay, gotta add that to my list.
Yeah, that one stands out to me because it's about these coworkers who are caught in was basically like a hostage situation.
Yes.
But it goes into really dark places. But yeah, again, you get all these people who would not choose to be together but have to be because of the circumstance, because it's their job. And then you introduce a crazy element, and it's like, how do we work together?
Exactly. How do we get this done? Craig Dre says Elizabeth Moss is really good. The Invisible Man performance was really good. Yes, I just like the way that the direction that they took. Cause I didn't know they were going to go there. I thought we were getting like another Hollow Man, but
Yeah.
the way they did it, I was like, oh, you guys did extra credit on this. I was really digging it.
I was blown away. And Lee Winnell's now doing the Wolfman. So now I'm really, really interested in what he's going to do with that. And also really interested in that it's another Universal monster, because when I think about another director who's made 2 Universal, well, I guess he's made 3, James Whale. He did Frankenstein, he did Bride Frankenstein, and he did The Invisible Man. And so now that Lee Winnell is getting his second Universal monster, all of a sudden I'm like, I mean, I always thought he was cool, but now I'm like, Lee Winnell is going to be an all-timer 50 years from now. We're going to look back at his work.
Yes, make the Universal monsters cool again. You know, just give it all to us. Give it all to us. You know, I always love when there's a great like Dracula out there, like the BBC Dracula on Netflix. I just loved from top to bottom. Loved from top to bottom. You know, now my next question, you know, would be: do you have any favorite like horror television shows? You know, it could be past or present that stick out to you.
I love the Chucky show.
Yes.
One of the things I love Chucky, but one of the things I love about Chucky, specifically the show, is that the two of the lead actors are queer teens. I mean, I think now by the 3rd season, maybe, no, I guess they're probably still teenagers. It blew me away that it's like, I never thought I'd see the day. Like, these two 16-year-old kissing, and it's like, that happens all the time. You know what I mean? Like, teenagers fall in love. And I cried when that happened. I couldn't believe that we had that. And along the same lines, technically they're movies, but the Fear Street films were done in a way that's kind of like a series. And that was another movie that made me really emotional, because I never thought growing up, I'm like, the Fear Street films, I was like, I needed this film when I was in high school. Like, I wish. Let's see. You know what? I just watched the first episode of Interview with the Vampire today.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Oh my god. I was like, this is so romantic. Like, it's so romantic and hot. But like, it was really beautiful. And then I like squealed when I was like, oh my god, we're going to New Orleans. I was like, this show is like catered to me. So I'm really excited to continue watching Interview with the Vampire. I was really blown away. You know, the Exorcist TV show is pretty good.
Yeah, I've heard about that one. That's when I got to dive into the Exorcist TV series.
I'm bummed that they didn't continue it, because it was good. And when you look at the Exorcist franchise, you know, there's like Exorcist 1 and Exorcist 3.
Yeah.
And that's about it in terms of like what. But then there's the TV series. That totally recommend that. You know, it's more for kids, or like it's not like pure horror, but Gargoyles.
Oh, hell yeah.
I think Gargoyles is fucking awesome show. Yeah, I think those, I'm sure I'm missing some. I watch a lot less TV than I do movies. I just like, because when I think about, I could watch, you know, a 1 season of like 15 hours of content. I'm like, I don't know, that's like 10 films I could have seen.
Exactly.
So, but you know, every once in a while, something peaks.
Yeah, I always say I need my TV series to be like the BBC, how they do it, where it's like 3 episodes a season, no filler. Like, don't give me filler. Just give me straight up story. You know, I don't need the filler.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, but there are some standouts, like, you know, even Chucky, like you mentioned before, you know, Jake and his arms. Those kids are getting Those kids are getting big,
Yeah, I know. They're like, oh, I mean, that's what happens, especially at that age. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, well, you're a young man now. Jeez.
But like you said, like we're not used to seeing, certain things on television, especially like two adolescent boys kissing. Like I remember a time when it would be like protests, and I'm sure people are still writing in or
Yeah,
whatever,
there are
but
people mad about it, but yeah. But how many times have we seen a boy and a girl kiss? Like,
listen, it's been more inappropriate shit that we've seen, especially like inside the horror genre and outside the horror genre. Like
yeah,
I was watching the Stepfather, and they're like, oh, this girl is like 15 or something, but you're showing me her naked body. I'm like, you want me to believe this person is adolescent, but now you're showing me her naked body. What's
right. You're
going on here?
sexualizing them, showing them naked, and okay, maybe the actor isn't, but you're assuming that the viewer wants to see this.
Exactly. Exactly. It
Yeah,
and it raises suspicion. It's like, who is this really made for? And then, you see all these sleaze balls getting pulled in, to the spotlight. But that's a whole nother conversation,
yeah. And then
But
when they kiss in Chucky show, it's like, I don't know, just so cute and innocent. It's just like really sweet. They're just like with their bikes. And, I don't know. It's just really touching and cute. And so same thing with Fear Street. And so that's one of the things I'm most excited about is more of that. It's just and what I get out of it when I watch it, the reason why I want to see more of it is because I want the kids today to have it. I want
yes.
them, I want them to be able to see themselves in the type of ways that I didn't get to. So I get really excited to think about that.
Oh yes. Oh yes. It's always nice to be like to watch the little kids grow up and be like, yo, you guys don't even know. Like
Yeah.
you get to grow up with Black and Puerto Rican Spider-Man.
Yeah.
This was not a thing,
Like, yeah.
back in the day. Like you get to grow up in a world where we get Spider-Gwen, and she might get her own shit or whatever. It's like
Mhm.
you guys don't even know
Yeah.
how crazy it was.
Yeah. But it's all context. They'll grow up and be able to say the same thing. and
Yes,
and so
yes,
I don't know. I think it's our responsibility to um I don't know, to protect them for that. I mean, it's like it's okay that they like yeah, they don't know, but it's like I don't know, it's nice to advocate anyway. I mean,
yes.
to be like, it's good that you don't know about certain things. It's like some things were really fucked up and like things have gotten better and I would like to preserve the things that have gotten better for them.
Yes, most definitely, most definitely. Now, who do you have a favorite horror villain? I know this question is hard for a lot of people, but do you have the one that sticks out to you?
I like need to have my letterbox open.
No, you're not the only one. I've had a lot of people pull up their letterbox during the interview. It is okay.
Well, I have an idea, but I want to use this opportunity to talk about something that really pisses me off. Is that there are a
Okay, okay.
series of films that tee up the final girl becoming the villain in the next movie, and then they never make that movie. So Halloween 4, the end of the movie.
Yes.
She's now the new shape. The evil has passed down to Michael Myers, I think, niece. um
Hmm.
and then the next movie, we just pretend that didn't happen. And then Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. At the very end of the film, Laurie Strode goes nuts
Yep.
and puts on the mask. And I'm like, fuck yeah, give me Halloween 3. They never made that movie. They even did it in the new Halloween movie with they did pass it on to that boy in Halloween Kills.
Yeah.
And like I wish they went more into that. But there was a time where I thought that what was her name? Allison, Laurie Strode's granddaughter. There was this time where she was getting like, "Oh, you're dark and spooky and like murder is kind of hot." Yeah, I was like, "Please, are we gonna do it? Is she gonna become the new Michael Myers?" No. And then the same thing happened. Now, Scream 6. They were building it. Scream 5, and
Yeah.
we're clearly building that arc. And it was like, they're doing it. This is clearly what they're doing. They have one more film to make. It's gonna happen. And then those 2 actors are fired from the project or left the project. And I'm like, why can't we get the final girl who goes bad? That's what I'm looking for. And then we don't have that yet. But Mary Lou. Mary Lou. Prom Night to Mary Lou.
Yes. Awesome choice.
It's an awesome film. She's a great villain. She's like a Lady Krueger, and she's in the next 2 movies. They're lesser known, they're not, but the third one is fun, and it's extremely cheap. I haven't actually seen the 4th one, but Mary Lou is in it. And but in the third one, what's really fun about the third one is that it opens with Mary Lou literally doing the can in hell. Dun, dun, like she's it's so ridiculous. But yeah, I wish we had more female killers. There was one in Fear Street, the girl with all the blades. She was pretty cool. Who's Ruby something? She sings a song. But yeah, I have a soft spot for Mary Lou.
Mary Lou, listen, it's a classic. I remember actually my great aunt, she had got me into that, like going over her house and the midnight movies on the USA Network, and just staying up
all night. Yeah.
Yes, up all night. Crazy good time.
And your family's cool.
Yeah, thank you. It's funny, you don't realize it until like you get a little older. You're like, damn, like my aunt, she was watching horror. Like it's wild. We got Cray Dre said, I never thought of this, but I do remember seeing Halloween 4. Bobby likes it spooky. Thanks for stopping by, Bobby. Yes, Lori was supposed to, Cray Dre, that ending and seeing like, oh my God, it's passed on to her. Yes.
Give me that movie. I want that movie.
Lori was supposed to go bad at the end of Halloween Ends, but they cut it. Wow, I did not know that.
What the fuck? Invisible Man did the same thing at the very end of the film. She gets away with the suit.
Yeah.
I want that movie. God damn it.
Prom Night 4, Deliver Us from Evil was really good. Yes.
One left to see, yeah.
A lot of Mary Lou love. Sledgehammer, thanks for stopping by. Ken, Angela Baker, and Rose the Hat are 2 of the best ever. Yes. On definitely top tier. But it don't compare to the original Prom Night, and I seen that on USA Network at midnight. Yeah, Cray Dre, he loves the original Prom Night.
Speaking of Jamie Lee Curtis, yeah.
Yes. It did Sledgehammer. Candyman ended with Helen as the new Candyman too.
That is so right.
Can't forget about that.
Why can't we get these movies?
Exactly. Got Bobby. They make
really good endings. They could make really good beginnings.
Yes. But yeah, we're I think we're due, because honestly, I would love for a Halloween trilogy, because we've got how many multiverses in Halloween? I would love for a Halloween trilogy where maybe that first night it was Michael, but then after that it's Laurie.
Well, the whole thing is it's the shape. Michael Myers. Michael Myers wasn't important. It was the fact that he was the embodiment of evil. So Michael Myers could be anyone. And I wish we had more of that. Like, rather than Michael Myers continuing, give us a new shape every film.
Yes. It just give us something different. Like just having the niece, just that would be very interesting. It'd be very interesting, because we've seen flashbacks of Michael as a kid with a knife and the clown suit and all that. But give us in real time a kid and what that would look like. Definitely what that would look like. You
Oh,
know,
what's her name? From the Orphan films.
oh yeah. Oh, those were creepy as hell.
Yeah.
Creepy as
Especially
hell.
the second one, they camp it up and she's like driving and smoking. I'm like, that's my bitch. I like her. Yeah,
uh, we,
that's right.
we got Ken. What about Maxine? Maxine is allegedly really gory and giallo-esque.
Very
Yes,
excited
yes,
about that. Yeah,
yes. A lot.
if she's, I mean, she's got to be. If she's the Giallo killer in this, yes.
Oh yeah, that would be. Listen, I love the X movies. They can do no wrong. They can do no wrong. You know, for me so far. Craydre says that could be a cool thing to see a new shape. Like Michael Myers will forever remain the best shape, but it would be cool to see a female shape and how she would stalk and kill her victims. Yes, yes. You know, also they're developing Orphan 3 as we
Yeah.
speak. It was just announced. Okay, okay. You
Which
know,
is like crazy because the actor, she's just getting older and older. But they did it. I was amazed what they did with Orphan 2. I'm like, damn. And I love seeing some behind the scenes where they're just like literally like, okay, get on your knee. They just let's put people on platforms. Like they really did some old school stuff for that. And which is
listen.
it worked.
I don't care how old she is. She could be, 75, still put her up there. Because if you expect me to believe that people can't tell the difference between like Clark Kent and Superman, with these glasses, give me
Fair.
you can give me that. You can give me that. You
Totally.
know. We got Ken says, I'm telling you, we need a black female shape. Piss off all the anti-woke
Hell yeah.
people. Yeah, that would be wild. That'd be a wild film. That'd definitely
You
be
know,
a
we don't
wild.
really have many black women in the villain role. Like I guess Aaliyah, she's one. She's
Yeah,
in Queen of the Damned was yeah.
yeah. It
I
was
mean, maybe Jada Pinkett Smith, give us a Demon Knight too, where she goes bad. Like
I am campaigning for them to make another Demon Knight because I would love it. I would love it. Because if like you said, we don't have a lot of black women as the villain in these films, or at least like there's a lot as far as like your Lifetime movies or like your Tubi originals, like
yeah.
someone's going chasing somebody down on a boat, and stuff like that. But as far as the experimental or the stuff that goes to theaters, it's like we definitely need to see more of that.
Oh,
Like I don't know if you've seen Abby. Like Abby was really
oh yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Ma, Octavia's.
Ma. Yes,
I've
yes,
been campaigning for Ma too.
yes. Let's give it listen. I know it was not the best, but it deserves a sequel. Some
Yeah, no,
things
it was.
deserve a sequel.
I loved how trashy it was. I was like, whoa, this movie's fucked up. And like, I don't know. It reminded me of older films where like, this is really like dirty and creepy and weird. And especially she's like injecting the dog. Oh, and so spoiler alert, she dies at the end. My pitch for Ma 2 is for her to go full dream demon. That we get Ma is now a new Freddy Krueger, and she comes back and like haunts the kids' dreams. Like that,
So she would kill that. She would
right?
fucking kill that.
Yeah. Ma 2, Ma's Revenge.
Ma too, Ma's Revenge. I like that. I like that. Yes, yes. Listen. If they take that plot, this is recorded, so you're gonna get your credit hopefully for
Oh,
that
I've
for
been
that
screaming
idea.
about forever. No one thinks it's a good idea, but I'm still getting it.
Now, do you have a? I know we talked about horror villains, but do you have a favorite, final girl or final boy, out there?
Hmm. Um. Oh, I mean, I loved. Oh my god, I'm not. Um. What the hell's her name? I'm now forgetting the one who just got fired from the Scream movies.
Um,
Why can't I think of her name? She's incredible.
Samantha. So I think that was her name in the movies.
Yeah,
Yes, Sam.
yeah,
Yeah,
Sam.
yeah, I forgot her name, but you
She's incredible. Like I love
yeah.
her in the Heights, and yeah, I love Sam. I'm so mad, and like when she goes nuts at the end of 3, I was like, I'm feeling things. I was like, whoa, this girl's hot. And she's cool, and it looked like she was gonna go full villain in the 3rd movie, but yeah, I love Sam in the new series, and it really pissed me off when people complained about her. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
Melissa
Trey.
Barrera, thank you, Cray. Yeah,
Yes,
she's
Craig
so
coming
great.
through. But yeah, I think she did an incredible job. It was very unfortunate, what happened. It just seems like that franchise is there's always some shit, every the last couple movies. So I'm just like, I don't know what you guys are gonna do,
I
but
know.
get it together.
Like it was all teed up, like it was ready to go, and it's like I don't want to see. First of all, Sydney needs. She deserves a nice life. Like leave this poor woman alone. And I definitely don't want to catch up with her husband. I don't give a shit. Like, so I
Yeah.
don't know. I think it's crazy because it's like they should just made that finish the deal. Now, no matter what, it's gonna be that the storyline that they're building is done. Like, there's no way that they could resolve it or whatever. So that really bums me out. But
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, well, we'll see. We'll see what they decide to do.
yeah,
Because I know there's money behind it, so they're definitely gonna,
right. They have to figure
decide.
something out. Yeah, it's
Yes.
valuable. Yeah.
Now, I want to thank you, for rocking out with me so far
Oh,
and
my
answering all my
pleasure.
questions. I've got two more for you, before we wrap this interview up. But the first one would be we are in an era of like, the metaverse and things like that. And, there's a space for horror, especially as things develop more and more and technology gets more and more sophisticated. So if I were to put on the metaverse, goggles, and I'm looking into Kay's universe, like what am I seeing? Like as far as the scenery, like what does the sky look like? What does the ground look like? Like what do the buildings look like?
Hmm. In what sense? Like my own dreamland or
Oh
like
yeah.
my actual Salem house?
I mean, well, it could be your Salem house, or it
Yeah.
could be your dreamland.
Um, it would be that film noir aesthetic. It would be black
Ooh,
and white. It would be really pretty shadows. I mean, the thing that I love about that time, like, so 1942, that's when Cat People comes out. That's my favorite horror film. My favorite general film is a film called Gilda, and it's a 1946 film. It's a film noir starring Rita Hayworth, and she's like the most glamorous person ever on screen. Like, there's no one has ever been more beautiful than Rita Hayworth in Gilda, and it's black and white, and it's dark. It's a film noir, and it's not horror, but it has the same aesthetic as Cat People, and there's just I don't know smoking the cigarettes and like wearing evening gowns every day. Like just like dark glamour is what I'm
yes.
really drawn to. And I think that there's just something really sexy about the shadows.
Yes. That's the 1940s, like you were talking about, the aesthetic, it's just something about it. Like which how do you feel about the Sin City films, because they
Mm,
had their own, take on, certain eras.
I'd like to revisit them. I remember I don't think I seen I think I only seen the first one.
Okay.
But as a visual style, I love like I would love to see more movies do it. I'd love to see more black and white movies done in that style. The thing about those films is they're like extra times 10. You know what I mean? They're
Yeah.
like it's not just the style of the black and white, it's the chaotic energy that they add to it because it's like,
Yes.
it's like I don't know, it's like film noir and speed. And there's space for that. And I didn't really get into the original film noirs until the last 10 years,
Yeah.
much later after. So I would like to go revisit Sin City now, knowing what I know about the genre. Yeah, I'd like to check it out.
Oh yeah, they're fun movies. I specifically really dig the second one, because I'm a huge fan of Ava Green. I just think she's
Yeah.
just top tier, top
Mhm.
tier.
I
She
did see,
always.
was it a video or something recently where I was seeing some behind the scenes of Shannon Elizabeth dancing on the bar, and it was like green screen and everything.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Wow.
I think I need to
Wow.
revisit this.
Yeah, yeah. It was definitely up there. It was definitely up there. You know. We got Polo Surf in the building. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for stopping by. We got a Craydre. I love that description because I'm not really in the 40s horror, but hearing the explanation makes me intrigued. Yes,
Cat
yes, dive
people,
into it.
see cat people, the seventh victim. Um, what else? I mean, I walk with a zombie. You can't go wrong with Val Lewton, and I think Val Lewton's a great gateway into the 40s horror. Yeah.
Yes, yes. That's what it's about, expanding people's palates. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. So, my very last question for you for the interview is if you could spend 24 hours as your favorite horror villain or, creature, entity, person, thing, who or what would it be for 24 hours?
I mean, I have to stick with cat people. I want to be Irina or a cat
Okay.
person. I could be Kay, but a cat person. But like, there's the 1982 remake of Cat People, and it's the same characters. It's a little different. There's some parts that are very similar, but no, I don't know. There's a jaguar inside me. And I'd love, you know, there's a she wolf. You gotta let her out and breathe. Like,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I wish I could literalize that. I wish I could really turn into a big cat and just be slinky and dangerous. And yeah, I am a cat person. So
Listen, I love cats. Love cats. I think I'm a cat person more than I am a dog person, But I think that's a great choice. And no one's ever picked cat people before. So, I love that. I love that. I've definitely got to check out the one that you love, the one that was in the 40s.
I do
Uh
love both. I do love both, but they're very different. And you know what's cool
yes.
about the Cat People films is that reminds me of the Suspiria films in a way, where like if you see Argento's Suspiria, and it's so stylized with color, the color gels and the neons and all that. When they said they were gonna remake Suspiria, it was like, why? Like, how the hell are you going to top that or redo that or whatever? And what they did with the remake was the exact opposite. They like
Yes.
desaturated all the colors and they made, they took in a totally different style, like a different aesthetic. And the Cat People films are like this way too, the other way around. So you have this film noir aesthetic in the 1942 film, goes to 1982, and it's like the superior version of that film. So it's I do really like the original is better, but I do appreciate the 1982 film as well, specifically for its use of color.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, yeah, we're always like, even with like the Evil Dead, like I love the original Evil Dead, like it'll always be near and dear, but the remake 2013 remake, I gotta give love to that as well.
Yeah, it was.
You know.
Yeah, well, and the new one too, was really good. That's another female villain. She was
Oh
great.
yes. Oh yeah. She killed it. She made the movie. She definitely made the movie for me.
Absolutely.
And yeah, we got a Cray Dre. He says Suspiria remake was insane, so cold and gray. Yes, and I'm a cat person all day. Yes, listen, cat people arise, cat people on the
Yeah,
rise.
check it out, Craig. You'll be hooked. and yeah, you'll be hooked.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you, again for stopping by and having this chat with me. I really enjoyed it, getting to know you a little bit more, through the lens of horror and just picking your mind a little bit. I love to pick, people's mind and see see where their interests, come from and the origins and stuff like that. So it's definitely a fun conversation, So thank you for stopping by, Kay.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. It was really fun, Tyrone. Thanks.
Oh yes, oh yes, and everybody who's watching or watching the replay, thank you for stopping by as well. And you can definitely check Kay out. All of her links are going to be in the description below. And make sure you check out Salem. The film festival. Because it's kicking ass. It's kicking ass. I think the last year's. Like I didn't get a chance to make it, but I saw like a lot of horror content creators out there. So I'm like, oh, this is definitely one of the spots. This is definitely a hot spot. Because I've never been to Salem before either.
Come.
So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm proud of the festival, but Salem is a fucking awesome city. Like it's just it's everyone's bucket list. And what I try to do with the fest is I want people to come and enjoy the fest, but I know that Salem is a destination of itself. So I try to incorporate that and be like, you're not just coming to see the festival, because I know that if you're going to come to Salem, you don't want to stay in a dark room the entire weekend. So I try to incorporate that and encourage people to explore while they're here.
Yes. It's definitely a fun place from what I've seen. Very very packed from what I've seen on TikTok as well.
Well, it's not. That's why I moved out of October. So it's not that in April.
Okay.
The same spooky shit happens in April, so that's why I'm always like, you don't have to go in October. The same shit happens in April. It's just fewer people.
And the weather's better in April. Like let's go. Let's go.
And we're right on the ocean. It's really pretty.
Okay. See, selling it to me. But thank you again. Everybody in the comments. Ebony, thank you. Femme Fatale Noir. Thank you. Pretty Girls Love Horror. Jerry, thank you for stopping by. How Bizarre Pictures. Cray Dre, thank you for stopping by. Bobby likes it spooky. Ken, everybody. Polo, yes, everybody, thank you. But that's been another episode of Evol Live. And as always, people, peace, love, and horror. And watch something spooky tonight.